Greetings to all of you. I want to talk today about a guide, a healer, a wise counselor who can be there with us and for us in this intense and turbulent time of transition as we move from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, as we move through this chaotic time of death, rebirth, movement into new paradigms, new ways of being. This is an incredible time where we have the opportunity, individually and collectively, to awaken, to move into a higher level of consciousness, to make an evolutionary leap as humanity into a more expanded understanding of who we are and what we're capable of as we come back into connection with cosmic consciousness and move into galactic consciousness. We have the opportunity to remember we're energy beings. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. But as we reconnect with the energies of nature and the energies flowing through the cosmos, we remember how we're a part of the wholeness of all that is. We're interconnected with everything. And then we have this opportunity to come back into relationship, come back into harmony with all that is, and come into an expanded understanding of our gifts and our capabilities as children of the cosmos. But in this transition time, we're caught in turbulence, the chaos of the death of the old forms, the old paradigms, and the liminal time of not quite being into the new paradigms, the new ways of being. So it's a difficult time, a stressful time. It's chaotic. It activates our fears, our insecurities, our confusion, whatever unresolved issues that we have, our own wounds and traumas from the past, and our collective trauma is all up right now. It's critical as we move through this transition time not to get mired in that or overwhelmed by that, but find our way through this time of transition as a healing process, as a time of initiation, awakening, and transformation. But we need a guide who can show us the way. That guide is Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. Where Chiron is in our charts shows us where we have experienced our earliest, most painful wounds. Chiron shows us what we may bring from past life traumas, what we may re-experience in painful ways in this lifetime. And Chiron speaks to us of our ancestral wounds. As we work with the energy of Chiron in our charts, we find our path for healing. And then through those wounds, we can find our healing gifts and step into the wholeness of who we are and a deeper compassion for the suffering of others and a capacity to no longer project our pain or trauma or unresolved issues onto others and then demonize them or react or act out towards them. But we take back those wounded parts of ourselves. We hold them in compassion. we come back into wholeness within ourselves, and then the capacity to come back into unity, into right relationship with each other and all that is. So who is Chiron? Our understanding of Chiron, which is known as a comet, an asteroid, a minor planet, already we get the sense that Chiron doesn't fit any clear category or way of being. Chiron is one of the centaurs, these minor planets that have come from the Kuiper belt, which is that outermost belt of debris from the origins of our solar system. So Chiron remembers our origins and has come into our solar system, probably pulled in by the gravitational field of Neptune. And Chiron moves in an elliptical orbit between the orbits of Saturn and Uranus. In that way, Chiron is the ideal guide for us in this time of transition, when all of 2021 we're in that intense square between Saturn and Uranus. Saturn in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus. As I talked about in my last video, that square is about our movement from these old forms into the new paradigms. But it can be a tense and challenging configuration, as we may feel the polarization or the tension between our desire to cling to the old forms that give us a sense of security and Uranus calling us into awakening, into those new ways of being. But we can feel caught in that tension and that transition. And Chiron, this planetoid, this minor planet that weaves back and forth between the orbit of Saturn and Uranus, is showing us how to bring those energies into collaboration with each other instead of tension with each other, to help us through this transition time. Chiron's orbit is 50 years. And right now, Chiron is in the sign of Aries, and in its orbit is in part of its outermost section of its orbit where it's very close to the orbit of Uranus. So it's now in its journey out, connecting with Uranus and the other transpersonal planets. And then it comes back in close to Saturn's orbit, guiding us in how we hold those energies and bring them in to this form, this manifestation on this planet. Chiron and the meaning of Chiron can be understood from the Greek myth, in which Chiron is born from a traumatic rape, where Kronos, who's married, pursues and rapes this nymph, giving birth then to Chiron. Chiron ends up being abandoned by both of his parents, so he comes in to life wounded. He doesn't fit any clear category. He's the child of a god and is immortal, but comes in the form of half human, half horse, a centaur. But he doesn't quite fit in with the other centaurs either. He's raised by Apollo, who becomes his foster father, and teaches him the ways of wisdom and of healing. So Chiron carries his own early wounds, but through that process deepens in his own compassion for others and becomes a wise counselor teacher, healer. He is the archetypal wounded healer. But then later in the story, Chiron accidentally gets shot by Hercules and wounded with a poison arrow that causes him intense, ongoing pain. But because he's immortal, he cannot be relieved from that suffering through death. So he holds that pain of that wound for a prolonged period of time until he finally is able to resolve it and release it through exchanging his life with Prometheus's, moving into mortality and being then made into a constellation in the sky, Centaurus. He changes places with Prometheus, who's being tortured by Zeus for defying the gods, for stealing the fire for humanity, and daring to challenge the power of the gods. There are so many layers to this story. But at core, the story of Chiron is the story of someone who knows deep pain, trauma, wounds, but works that, faces that, and becomes a profound healer and teacher and guide. Chiron, now in the sign of Aries, sextiling Saturn, is trying to guide us in how to move through this transition time. Chiron is teaching us that it's okay to feel like we don't fit in with consensual reality. We're encouraged to honor our uniqueness and the ways in which we may feel liminal, whether it's because of our ethnic differentness, gender issues, sexuality issues, trauma, our wounds, our sense of differentness. Whatever that may be, Chiron is saying, embrace your differentness. It is how you understand how to open through those wounds into your own initiation process, to expand, to deepen, to become more compassionate, to grow in wisdom, and hold that compassion and empathy for others. It is through whatever those areas that we feel different, that we feel other, that we feel wounded, that we actually find the path to our uniqueness and our strengths and our gifts. As we're moving through this time of transition, Chiron is guiding us to not distract ourselves from our wounds or our fears or the turbulence of this time, but to hold ourselves with compassion, to face our fears, to dive deep into that journey of healing, to move into a time of transformation. Chiron can hold us and guide us and walk with us in that journey into the underworld, through the death, rebirth, through the pain into the healing, through the trauma into the wholeness. It is a path through, not a fleeing from our wounds and pain, that we find our wholeness. It is, Chiron really holds that wisdom of the shamanic initiation, that it's through our times of crisis that we find that opening to a deeper connection with spiritual understanding and transformation, and then can integrate more fully all of the aspects of ourselves to come into wholeness. Chiron is guiding us this year to really dare to face what we need to see in our lives and reclaim, to heal. Chiron is helping us collectively to dare to let go of the forms of the past, to open to this time of transition, this liminal time that is allowing us to move through this transformation into radically new ways of being. Chiron across this year will be between the degrees of 5 and 12 in Aries. Chiron moved into Aries in 2018 and will be in that sign until 2026. So it's amazing that Chiron is in the sign of Aries as we're moving through this accelerated transition into the age of Aquarius, because I do believe that Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius in the Great Conjunction this past winter solstice were the midwives helping us begin to cross that threshold into the age of Aquarius, and that we will more fully move into that age as Pluto moves fully into Aquarius at the end of 2024. So Chiron is in Aries through that whole period of time, helping guide us through this transition time. And in the sign of Aries, Chiron is helping us heal our sense of self, Aries. Chiron is helping us heal from the ways in which we still carry the wounds of the age of Aries. That age was a profound time when we were discovering our sense of uniqueness, testing out our capacity to separate ourselves from source and from what's around us, to explore, to understand things in new ways, to really be on that hero's journey of individuation and exploration. But the shadow side of the age of Aries is the imbalances of the patriarchal period that we were moving into, that movement into hierarchy and separation and devaluation of the other, and particularly the devaluation of the sacred feminine and of our connection with the earth. And it also involved our separating from source and feeling that sense of alienation and getting caught in violence, in a need for control and dominance, to have a sense of security or to prove our superiority to each other, to the earth. It led us into those wounds that we still carry. And part of the movement into the age of Aquarius is letting go of that paradigm of power over, of patriarchy, and coming back into rebalancing the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. Taking what we've learned in that journey of separation and individuation and coming back into unity consciousness, coming back into balance and harmony with the earth and sky, coming back into a new form of community where we embrace our diversity and see each other with respect, see each other as equal, and come back into justice and compassion for all. This is the transition that we're in. But as we're moving through this process, we're needing to heal those wounds from the past and face those shadow aspects of ourselves, that could block us from embracing the transformation and the movement into these new ways of being. And Chiron is guiding us in that journey. So being in the sign of Aries, Chiron is helping us heal those wounds from the patriarchal period and the age of Aries, helping us heal the ways in which we get identified with our egos and get caught up in greed or arrogance or imbalance or violence or separation. Chiron is helping us heal our sense of self and move into a new form of self-discovery, which is about being in balance with the earth and sky and cosmos. It is about reintegrating our soul selves with our human self. It is about integrating our connection with the natural environment and that part of us that is transcendent. Just as the centaurs were integrating being human and animal, we're integrating our animal selves, our human selves, and our divine selves. So as we move through this intense time of transition and transformation, we're not alone. We have a guide, a healer, a counselor showing us the way. Chiron is helping us be in our healing journeys and helping us move through this time of death and rebirth. Take time to tune in to Chiron, to look at where Chiron is in your chart now and where it's showing you that you're working through your own healing process. Look at where Chiron was in your birth chart, what those core wounds are that you are needing to face and heal and embrace as your pathway into your own initiation and transformation. We then have the capacity, all of us, to be wounded healers, to use whatever gifts we've come in with to step into our creativity and wholeness and be that healing energy of love and light to all around us. This is a profound time that we can allow ourselves to melt away the blocks, defenses, facades, false personas that we've attached to try to feel safe. Instead, we can face our vulnerability, dive deep into that journey of transformation and healing, and emerge with the true gold of who we are. May we support each other in that process. May we remember that healing journey that Chiron is guiding us to open to. And may we reclaim the wholeness and fullness of who we are and move together into this profound new way of being as humanity on this planet. Beings of light and love and justice and compassion and expanded consciousness. Galactic beings.